man. Not too bad at all.
All
Not too
right.
bad at all.
I gotta ask, what is it that, prompted you to schedule the call with me?
Um, at the moment, I am looking to reach out to as many guys as possible that we can learn from in terms of individuals that have had experience that can maybe give one nugget, two nuggets of insight from their experience out of what they've done in terms of growing the esports space here in South Africa and obviously further into Africa. Had a number of conversations with a lot of people around the South African esports scene, around the African esports scene, and for the most part, there's there's a lot of stuff bubbling under the surface, so to speak, but nothing's on fire. Really, it's almost like we're essentially sucking hind so badly. But then when I look, across the pond, I look to the east, I look to the west, I look what's happening in Europe, and I'm like, why? Why? What the hell are we doing wrong? What is it the traditional argument which we always get thrown at that no, no, Africa or South Africa, no, we're a couple of years behind everyone, so we'll catch up soon. But that catching up soon has been 6 years and 7 years in the making in terms of my personal experience, and we can't be that far behind you guys. Come on, not possible. So that's what it's all about, truth be told.
The way I understand it, because I haven't been back on the African continent since I was about 9 years old. So my family is from the Congo
Mhm.
and Burundi in Africa on the continent. And so I don't know enough about South Africa currently to make an evaluation. All I know is the last time I was actually physically on the African continent, gaming was growing. And so the video game industry in Africa, esports especially, will not be behind forever just because the way I look at it, right? I look at things in terms of a system level approach. And so what that means for people in the audience is I think about the way society in terms of human beings, animals, everything is living works together either harmoniously or in chaos. Right now, we're in a recession. It's more chaotic. Esports in South Africa, especially because as populations rise on the African continent, you're also going to have pockets where population is going to decrease in terms of people who are video gamers. And so esports especially is going to rise in some places, and then it's also going to decrease in other places just because in a recession, right? Who's going to say, hey, I want to become a professional cyber athlete or I want to go get my certification in esports Six Sigma like I did the other day. Not many people are going to be thinking that way, so it's going to be a minority in the beginning. This is the beginning of the recession. I'm not talking about after the recession when everybody has more resources financially and socially and whatever they want to do in terms of their socio-economic status.
Yeah, I suppose there is an argument for that, most certainly, and we cannot ignore recessionary times. But I mean, come on, 2008, first recession, the last recession, esports, the gaming industry was one of the only industries that actually grew. Obviously, there's challenges at the moment. We see that happening across, I think, the tech industry as a whole. Let's have a look at see what's happening at Twitter. Let's have a look at see what's happening at Meta. All of these guys are going through changes. They're going through restructures, and we obviously see what's happening in the esports space, particularly with regards to some of the bigger teams, how they're going through strife, how they're. I mean, I suppose the most notable one is what's happening at Phase at the moment. But I think to paint you a picture, and I suppose this is going to go out, and there are probably going to be a lot of people like, yeah, really. The reality is that in most of the other regions around the world that I'm aware of, you've got thriving professional environments where a gamer can be, in the true sense of the word, a professional. They literally pay their bills through gaming, right? I don't know of many of them in South Africa. In fact, the FGC space, where I've spent a lot of time in the last number of years, has none. And we've just sent guys to Capcom Cup. I think we first South African that has represented the continent or the country, Capcom Cup. Man, he wakes up on a Monday morning, packs his lunch, and goes to work. We had guys represent South Africa at Tekken World Tour. Same thing. Callum Beekers, I'm pretty damn sure, wakes up in the morning and packs his lunch and goes to work. And similarly for the guys that are going to represent South Africa at the Red Bull Kumite coming up, the guys that have won the Hit the Streets here, again, they go to work on a Monday morning. So for me, the thing is that you mentioned getting a qualification, Six Sigma in esports. We have maybe, I don't even think 5 tertiary education facilities that are offering something in the video gaming industry. Most certainly not esports, as we would define esports. We have nothing from a curriculum or school development of esports coming out of primary or high school in this country yet. And yet the kids look on social media, the guys that are in the gaming space, they know the likes of No Tail. They know what's happening with FaZe. They know what's happening with 100 Thieves, etc., etc. They know what's going on. They see the money. They see.
Hey Mark, your screen audio is frozen. Okay, let's see if he'll reconnect in a second. Give him a moment here just to see if he'll come back. Can't really tell. Send message. Send him a message. Let's see. All right, so as we wait for Mark's return, kind of go into explaining the perspective of being a bit contrarian. So esports, in terms of growth at the system level, requires things not from the top-down approach, as you know, institutions have done things in the past, like creating the labor force in America around 1940 to 60. That's not how esports is probably going to continue to grow. In the beginning, esports is grassroots, so that's how it's going to be in South Africa, the African continent. It's going to be grassroots, and then it will also be flipped after recession. So in times of economic crisis, chaos, grassroots esports rises up. That's when you're gonna have more opportunities for people to have things in such demand as a certification, like my Lean Six Sigma and esports certification, or we're gonna have more demand in terms of a flip scenario where you're in a economic increase, right? So we have something called an expansion period after recession. So they'll go from not having a lot of resources to a lot of people going into esports, getting sponsorships, investments, etc. There we go. There's Mark.
Hey, Adam, welcome.
Hey, there we
Let me
go.
say welcome back. And I was going to get to that, so apologies for that. That is what we in South Africa have affectionately called load shedding, where power will go out. And if you're fortunate enough to have access to generator or some form of backup energy source, power, solar, whatever it might be, you can carry on life pretty much as normal. But many others don't have the luxury. So as I was saying, I think there are a number of problems endemic, or challenges, should I say, endemic in the African continent. Power is one of them. South Africa, probably one of the most advanced economies on the continent. We have major power problems at the moment. Obviously, bandwidth, ping rate, access to servers, all of the things that I could probably sit with you for hours and hours and hours and complain about. But that's not the point here. The point here is what is it that we could be doing better in the space to be able to advance the things we've been doing here in the esports environment and take it to the next level. I mean, there's no doubt we've got talent. There's no doubt we've got passion. There's no doubt we've got what it takes in all facets of the gaming industry, whether it be actual gamers, whether it be shoutcasters, whether it be the developers. I mean, plenty developers are sitting in this country right now developing for big name titles in the States, in the Far East. And what is it that we can learn? What is it that we could probably, that nugget or two that we can get from guys like yourself about how we can take it to the next level?
Yeah, I was speaking to the audience as you were gone. During a recession, right, there's going to be opportunities for the grassroots level. So people think esports grows from the top down, right? Institutional levels, like a university or college, or you have somebody like the Rockefeller family, start donating to charities that fund gaming initiatives. That's not how that's going to grow during a recession. During a recession, you want to focus on the lowest level esports environments, peer groups, everything that's in the grassroots community, because you're going to have access to people who, like you said, right, they're passionate, right? And what's important about passion is when you're just going after money in esports, you can do that, right? But esports doesn't have a lot of money. There's $20 billion going into esports over the last decade or more, and a lot of it was wasted. The majority of it was wasted, actually. We only had about $1 billion in revenue in the last year or so in esports. So you have to think $1 billion in revenue, and the majority of that didn't go to South African, either gamers, content creators, developers, etc., artists, for example, that are underpaid in the video game industry and esports industry. So you want to think about how do you get an underpaid artist to go from living in South Africa, where they have rolling blackouts like you experience, to a level where they can go and speak with an institution, right? Such as the Rockefeller family, and succinctly educate them on the benefits of an esports program throughout all of the corporations, charities they work with, where they can educate their employees, right? Their executives, their business owners. Because if you have one underpaid artist who rises up through the ranks in terms of esports economics and socially, not just financially, they'll be able to do what I did. I dropped out of university around the age of 18. I was working on my small business. People thought I was crazy. Years later, at the age of 24, I mentored over 100 business owners and executives in esports. I'm certified in Lean Six Sigma in esports, world's first. And you have to think, how many people could have done that outside of esports? Nobody could have done that because in the world of gaming, things have been focused so much on the institutional level, right? Top-down approach, where you have, again, the Rockefeller family investing into charities and other programs for their employees to get educated, etc. But that's not going to happen for South Africa in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
That's 3 generations away from now, right? More than 50 years from now, that's going to happen. So you have to think 3 generations in the future. Yeah, you can go to the Rockefeller family, get up an esports program in South Africa. Of course, it's 3 generations in the future. Everybody's going to have no power problems. Everybody's going to have no issues being an underpaid artist anymore because they're going to have things such as, well, blockchain technology,
Yeah.
NFTs, where people will own what they create literally on the blockchain. So they'll be able to get that opportunity through technology, socially, financially, and then we can move it at a system level again. When I think in terms of systems from the grassroots to the top institutional level. And so right now, getting someone like yourself to speak with me, it's a great move forward because an underpaid artist would think, if Adam could do this in the United States, what could I do in South Africa where there isn't a lot of opportunity to go outside of these higher institutions that have all the power in video game industry? Well, what would you have to do? You'd have to go get your esports certification online. And you'd have to think, what's the best certification that you could get? Well, if you can afford it, right? Get the certification I got, I paid $10 for it. And so you have to think, those little moves make huge ripples down 3 generations from now, right? Because 3 generations from now, everybody could have the certification I got for $10 in South Africa. There's not a single person who wouldn't be able to work, be able to save up their money, afford that. 3 generations from now, by that certification opportunity, they get the same professional experience I got. They can train other people the way I train people, and then they can identify the problems and the systems at the grassroots level. They can identify where the process errors are at the grassroots level. And then we start to build up to the major sponsorships, the major investments.
I mean, obviously, I think what you say from a grassroots point of view, it is where ongoing development is going to take place. But what's your take on the following statement that for the most part, we find ourselves in a chicken and egg situation whereby, as a TO, myself, we look to build a safe space where gamers can come and game, where content creators can come and do their thing, get the footage that they need, talk about it, build their media stories, etc. We also do a bit of media ourselves. And when you approach sponsors, corporates, partners to come on board, this is where the chicken and egg kicks in. They go, well, how many people are coming to these events? Now, obviously, as you would know, anyone that's ever started out a tournament, nobody starts out with hundreds and thousands of people coming to your tournament. You obviously also don't start out with massive prize pools to bring the best guys from in their hidey holes to come and attend those tournaments. And yet, I must say, for my efforts, I've been very fortunate that in the FGC community here in South Africa, we've had some of the best guys attend on a very, very regular basis, almost monthly, putting on some of the highest prize pools that I think the FGC has seen in the country. And yet that is still a pittance to what we're seeing overseas. And yet the brands look at it and go, well, when you have a couple of hundred people there, then talk to us, then we'll be interested. So the chicken and egg scenario is, can't get the prize pools up high enough to attract enough fans to come and watch. Unless we have corporates come in and go, well, here, we'll put some cash behind it. We'll invest in this over the next year or over the next 6 months and see what we can get out of it. And so this little washing machine cycle starts repeating itself. What would your comment be to that?
That's where I have to, again, identify the processing error. In that system, you're thinking about, you have almost monthly reoccurring high quality cyber athletes attending your events, correct?
Yeah.
So that's great on a monthly basis, right? But again, from my perspective, right, I think about the system level. I want to think about 3 generations in the future. What are those monthly reoccurring cyber athletes going to do 3 generations from now where they don't have such issues that you're facing right now where the price pools are too small? You have to explain this to people so they can understand the investment opportunity. Esports will go from a roughly, 100 billion to maybe 200 billion to 350 billion to 400 billion dollar industry once we figure out this process in South Africa, because people do not really understand how quickly esports scales. You've seen this in live streaming and content creation and cyber athletes who compete and then they practice for a year, they disappear, nobody sees them, and then they come out on top with the rankings because all they did was work on their character, their competency, and their competitiveness. So the issue we're facing here is the timeline for what we want to achieve in the future. It's too short because you can't compress all those actions into 30 days or 60 days or 90 days or even 150 days. It's not physically a reality. Even if you had institutional level money, right, from the Rockefellers, right? The Rockefellers give you $1 billion. What are you going to do with $1 billion within 60 days or 90 days or 150 days? It's not enough time to build out all those right processes and systems you would need in South Africa. Even with a year, it wouldn't be enough time because you have all those cyber athletes, all those underpaid artists, right? Everybody has to get their part of the pie. And $1 billion is not going to be enough to sustain South Africa for a very long time. You need to think about what you can do for the foreseeable 3 generations and then work your way backwards because again, even with $1 billion, right? That money is going to go by so quickly. I've worked with some of the top sponsors and investors in esports and gaming, and the amount of money people will waste at the highest level on esports and gaming events, like I can tell you easily over 90% of it is just waste. And so
Yeah,
people don't
I
really
agree.
understand.
I fully agree with you. There's a hell of a lot of waste, but yeah, I'm thinking right now. I mean, geez, if the Rockefeller Foundation could drop $1 billion into esports investment in Southern Africa, I think we could change the space easily within 6 months in terms of grassroots social gaming and then obviously a sustainable professional segment very, very easily. I mean, I think the one component, and obviously it's very difficult for you to sort of understand a complete picture from the perspective of not having been here, and you're speaking to me for maybe for first South African for the first time, probably in a long time, maybe ever, and a lot of other people would probably disagree with a school of thought that I have right now is the corporate space in this country. If you were to put on a series of tournaments, serious prize pool with a couple of one or two good brands behind it, it will not take long with our mentality, and I see it as a backward mentality of brands going, oh, geez, if they there, we need to be there. It's not about, like you've said, 3 generations down the line where these brands are looking at it and going, I can make a difference in this space. Guys are looking at this purely and utterly for what they can get out of it right here, right now, not there, not a generation down the line, not two, and most certainly not 3 generations down the line.
Yeah, my argument for these people who are so instant gratification focused in South Africa, especially in terms of the video game industry, I'm trying to explain to them the last time I was in Africa, on the African continent, I experienced what gaming was like very little because I didn't even know that esports was really a thing at 9 years old. So I'm walking around on the African continent, right? Burundi, right? I'm going to Mount Kilimanjaro, and it's just like Central Africa. The people who don't understand this experience, you didn't have a lot of esports development there at the grassroots level. But now we have, again, some of these institutions or government entities, you can say, in South Africa or the African continent in general, they will be instant gratification focused because they see esports as a speculative investment. It's not something where they get that guaranteed ROI, which that's the problem. 3 generations from now, that ROI would be guaranteed. Even with $1 billion, right? If we had to really make it work with $1 billion from the Rockefeller Foundation, we could do it. We would just have to make it spread for a long time, and we could make it sustainable and profitable in South Africa. But the problem is the Rockefeller Foundation wants that ROI right now. They want it within the next 90 days, within the next 150 days. And the problem with that thinking is, again, the timeline is too short to create the right processes for South Africa to be sustainable and profitable in esports.
Yeah, it is a big conundrum. Obviously, the education side of things is also, I think, a big challenge, because not only is it the education of the youth, the up-and-coming gamers, but it's, like you've said, it's education of parents, it's education of corporates, it's education of investors, and all the other stakeholders that, not right now, but in that 1, 2, 3 generations hence, will all be major stakeholders in the esports and the gaming industry per se.
Yeah, the more I want to explain this to the audience very clearly. What Mark is saying here is very correct in terms of an accurate view of reality and what's effective, because when you want to efficiently associate Africa and esports, what you would have to do, again, because these institutions are so instant gratification focused, you do have to educate every single person you see on the street, every single person you see when they look at a gaming center, right? A gaming event you create, whether it's a tournament or you have some people just using, a PC center in their gaming. So you have to think, what can you do to educate these characters, these corporations, and even sometimes government entities about the long-term, not speculative investment, but a realistic, profitable, and sustainable investment in esports 3 generations from now, because they won't have any idea. They can't grasp that type of thinking because for them, right, they have all the resources already, right? These elites don't care about some random underpaid artist in South Africa, which is the problem, because that type of thinking shows up 3 generations from now when now artist's family is super talented in the arts, but those elites lost the opportunity to hire them because they went to another corporation, right? Another entity, or worst case scenario, right? What if they leave South Africa and then you lose those resources in terms of not just financially, but socially? You lose out on the opportunity South Africans can provide to the gaming and esports industry because you didn't think 3 generations from now when that underpaid artist has a super successful artist family and they all want opportunities, but you couldn't pay them that 150K per year salary in South Africa because you weren't thinking 3 generations from now. You were thinking in the next 90 days or 150 days, which is arguably stupid because, again, if the Rockefeller family gave us $1 billion to go into South Africa and make it sustainable and profitable in esports, right? We'd have to explain to them, listen, that $1 billion isn't for the next 90 days. It's for the next 3 generations minimum, because we can get opportunities here that make it profitable and sustainable that you won't see in other parts of the world. Because again, you're not going to have the same passion. You're not going to have the same talent. You're not going to have the same environments where you can create people who are like yourself, Mark. You have the right character, the right competency, and the right competitiveness.
I suppose we've got a couple of examples, and I'm talking to one of them. I mean, you've left the African continent, so that opportunity, the education you've now created for yourself, your family, etc., you're gone from the African continent. Whether or not you come back, that I suppose will depend very much on what happens on the African continent and whether you see it attractive enough to come back and invest not only your time, but your social resources and potentially plow roots back into Africa. I suppose that's one example. Another example that I recently experienced was attending a government conference late last year. We literally asked the question of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, and we asked a similar question to the head of that provincial film commission. And the two questions were as follows. So to the sports individual was, has the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture classified or even started thinking of classifying esports as a sport? And I think you know what the answer is going to be. No.
No, they have not.
Okay. And that's not just in South Africa. I mean, speaking to colleagues of mine in Kenya, the government there doesn't recognize esports. Everything that's happening in Kenya, to my understanding, is all happening underground. The second question that we asked to the head of the film commission was, have they started thinking about classifying content creators as microfilm makers? And I know you probably know the answer already. It was a big
No,
fat
they
no.
did not.
They haven't even started this concept of, hold on a second, because they don't understand what goes into creating content out of esports. They don't understand that it actually is not a 5-minute process, and that in many instances it takes days, if not weeks, to put together some really good esports content. And for them, this is a bridge too far, not only in terms of support, but in terms of just opening their minds.
So the way I explain this to my family and friends is the last time I was on the African continent and I saw the people there, they had no idea that esports would be an opportunity for them. I would just say that on the general population, nobody has any idea about esports being an opportunity because a lot of them, if they're aware, they don't think it's profitable or sustainable. They think it's just something that, again, like the higher institutions, the governments especially, they think it's just a speculative investment, right? You just throw some fun money there and then you leave it for the next 3 generations because you don't care what happens to that $100,000. It's just a random prize pool. But the problem is that $100,000, again, that's going to be the salary of an underpaid artist 3 generations from now in South Africa, because the investment level opportunity that's not speculative in South Africa is bigger than almost any other environment in the world. Because again, like you said, the passion, the talent, you can't get that anywhere else except South Africa. And a lot of people don't think this way. And trying to explain this to people is, listen, you can throw your fun money around. You can throw your $100,000 around anywhere in any prize pool. But if you want to actually make serious money, and I'm going to say this as financial advice because I have an actual certification in this, I would go to an esports opportunity where you can get certified. And if you're a South African, just speak with me about what you can do to get certified in Lean Six Sigma. Again, I paid $10 for it. Now I can educate anybody about how to identify processing errors in their companies or organizations. This is something which they're not teaching in South Africa. This is the problem why these guys are so short-term focused. Their instant gratification has blinded them. Their ego is misused, and now they can't see 2 feet in front of them when they should be able to look 3 generations out, where the average salary of an artist in South Africa is $100,000. So you have to think 3 generations out. Otherwise, again, the way you look at esports for them, it's just corrupted because they will never understand the purpose, mission, and vision we have. They're just going to think about, hey, it's a speculative investment. It's fun money. Take the 100K, put it in your prize pool. I'll never see you again. And that type of thinking will never get you anywhere in terms of that $400 billion industry esports could be, starting with South Africa.
Correct. Well, Adam, it's been great chatting to you. I am mindful of time. I definitely do believe that this is not going to be the last time we talk. I most certainly want to talk to you or get a little bit more information, because I'd like to share this video with my audience this side about the Six Sigma qualification. So definitely hope to get a little bit more information and put that out to locals this side and see if we get any bites, and see if guys want to start upping their education levels in true esports education.
Mark, thank you so much for your time. Let the audience know where we can find you online.
Absolutely. You can find me on Ruckus Media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Meta, all the other places. But we'll post this video everywhere we go. And Adam, people, I think, definitely going to be seeing a lot more of your face here in South Africa.
Thank you so much, Mark. I will speak with you in the future. I'm very excited for what you will be creating.
Thanks, Adam, and you have a great day further.
Thank you. Take care.